Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to show you guys a little tutorial on how I crochet my tapestries. And now today the pattern that I wanted to show you guys based off of is this little cute Snoopy pattern that I found from Pinterest, and you can quickly search it on Pinterest and it'll come up. But the yarn that I'll be using is only these 3 colors, and it is worsted weight yarn. I think it's a weight 4, and the hook that I'll be using is a 5.25, only because I don't have a 5.5, but either or works perfectly fine. Alright, so here is a close-up of the Snoopy pattern that I'm going to be using to show my example of. And just to start off the whole tapestry, I'm going to make a simple slip knot and attach it to my hook. And I'm going to go ahead and make a chain of however many squares in your picture that you have. So for example, in my Snoopy tapestry, I have a total of 35 squares going across from left to right. So I'm going to make a total of a chain of 35 chains. So once I have 35 chains done, I'm going to go ahead and make one extra chain, and that chain is going to be to turn our work and start the actual first row of the tapestry. And so going back into your chain, I'm going to make just one single crochet into every single chain. So this first row is going to count as the whole first row of the crochet tapestry. And I start mine from going from right to left. So as I work on it, as you can see, when I'm holding my chain, I'm working from right to left. So here it is, a total of 35 single crochets done, and this is the whole first row done. So now to start the second row, I go ahead and chain 1 to turn my work, and now I'm going to be starting my tapestry from left to right on the second row. And this tapestry, it is the same repeated. The first 2 rows are just a total of 35 single crochets from left to right. And just a little tip, I would advise just to do a whole border of at least 2 rows, top, bottom, left and right, of one color, just to make the transition of each color much more smoother, and so that your borders look much more cleaner as well. But now to start my third row, I'm starting from right to left this time, chaining 1 to start the next row, of course. And first you're going to count however many blocks that you have before you color change. So on mine, I have a total of 16 squares, so 16 single crochets before I do my color change. So technically I'm going to stop on my 15th single crochet. So as you can see here, I have 15. So on my 16th single crochet, which is the last one before the color switch, I go ahead and stop crocheting right here, as you can see. And before I finish the last loop for the single crochet, I go ahead and attach my color change. So the black is going to be the next color, and I bring it through to finish the 16th single crochet. So next I have 1 square of black. So with this black yarn, I go ahead and single crochet 1, but before finishing, I go ahead and stop, attach my white yarn, because white is the next color for the next like 6 blocks or 7. So now I attach it, finish my 1 single crochet of black, and now I go ahead and do the next 6 single crochets in white for the start of Snoopy's body. And you're going to go ahead and repeat this process of doing the color switches like this and for the rest of the pattern. And this honestly just helps my color switches to be a lot more smoother. And I'll go ahead and show you guys how I pick up the yarn on the other side once I go ahead and turn to the last row or the next row, so that you can see how I make one side look nice and clean versus the back side. So here I am on the 6th single crochet for the white of the body, and then I go ahead and pull the black yarn wherever I dropped it in the back, and I go ahead and just pick it up from the back side as best as I can without getting anything else extra tangled. Bring it up and pull it through. Now I go ahead and just pull it up enough so that it's not too loose in the back, to have it just enough straight in the back. And then go ahead and do 1 single crochet, but before finishing it, I go ahead and drop it and pick the red from the end of the crochet tapestry. and then bring it through. And then I go ahead and make sure that on the back side that the yarn is pulled nice and like evenly and not too loose. So now for the rest of this row, there are no more color changes, so I can just finish off the rest of the row, and you don't really have to count because you know that there is nothing else to change. But that is how it is going to be looking like for the color changes versus the front and the back. Now I would just advise to just try to keep the back as nice and like not too loose but not too tight on the back, so that way it can look as clean as possible. Now starting on the fourth row, this one we are going to be working left to right, and again chain 1 and to start the next row. And for this one we are going to be making a total of 11 single crochets, but again before finishing off the 11th single crochet, which is the last color in red, as you can see right here I have made 10, so this one is the 11th. And before we finish, I go ahead and stop and then bring the yarn towards you to the front of you, because again this side is the wrong side of the tapestry. And so now I will be grabbing my black yarn and bringing it through to finish off that last red stitch. And then I'm going to be making 1 single crochet in black, but before finishing I hold the yarn and bring it to the front towards me, drop it, and then I go ahead and pick up the white wherever I left it off from the last row, just like this, and then bring it through to finish off that black stitch. So now I go ahead and finish off the next 5 single crochets in white, but again before finishing the last single crochet, which is the 5th one, I go ahead and stop and drop the color, pick up the black, and then finish the white. So as I said before, since this is the wrong side of the tapestry, you go ahead and bring the yarn towards you, drop it, and then pick up the black. And then again, just try to remember to make sure to give it enough slack so that the tapestry isn't so tightly pulled, but just enough so that you don't have too much yarn just hanging in the back of your tapestries. And then finish off your stitch. So again, once you are done with that color, you bring the yarn towards you, hold it down just so that I personally do that just so that I don't get anything like too tangled or mixed in. But then I bring up the red, and as you can see, I'm pulling it just with enough tension so that it's not too tight in the back to where it curves the whole tapestry, and not too loose to where it's just a bunch of yarn wasted in the back, and that ends up looking really bad, like just a bunch of spaghetti noodles in the back. So that's just a little tip of what I like to use, because I personally like to use this method because I don't really like to just cut a bunch of strands of yarn just for little sections of the tapestry that I end up using for, I don't know, this is just my preferred method and what works a lot easier for me as well, especially because for my tapestries I like to frame them as well, so you don't really end up looking at the back of your tapestries too much. But that, again, that's just personal preference and how I like to make my crochet tapestries. Okay, so again, starting with the next round, this one we are going to be working from right to left. So the front side will be facing us, and on this row you do not have to worry about bringing the yarn towards you when you drop it. You just leave it towards the back. So on this 5th row, you are going to start including the black a little bit sooner so that you start making the ears for Snoopy. So right here, as you can see, I am bringing the black a lot more further into the right side of the tapestry, and I give it enough slack to where it doesn't bend the tapestry in half like a taco, and just enough so that it doesn't look like just a bunch of noodle spaghetti dropping and dripping in the back of your tapestries. But honestly, I would advise you to make sure to keep your yarn a little organized so that you aren't going up and down or anything doesn't start getting too like tangled on you in the back, especially when you start flipping your work back and forth. So another tip that I also want to give you guys, so on this row specifically, this is row number 6, and I would tell you to just keep in mind that every odd number is the row that is going to be facing you. So the side that is the correct side, starting from right to left, and every even number is going to be the wrong side. So the side that I usually bring my yarn towards me to drop it off so that it isn't in the way and looking ugly in the front side. So that's just another little tip, but I do also advise people that when you're doing tapestry to kind of keep a little tab or a little notepad next to you, or even if you're using like an iPad or something like that, to kind of draw on whatever graph or pixel graph that you choose to make a tapestry out of, to kind of draw on it and keep tabs of like which row you've gotten or how many cubes or little stitches that you have to make per color change, even, or even making a diagram of like 6 black squares, 4 red squares, 2 white squares, back and forth per each row. I feel like that ends up helping so much, and I've seen even tapestry crochet patterns being written out like that, like the ones that you buy from Etsy. They even write them off like that for you too. So to make a little tapestry reading or pattern reading easier for you, especially for the ones that you find from like Pinterest, like the one that I found here, doing it like that, like pre-writing a little pattern for yourself to know how much to do ahead of time, also makes it a lot easier instead of having to look down and up, back and forth from like crochet back and forth to a bunch of little pixels, and then having to ask yourself, oh my god, where was I? Where did I leave off on? How many did I do? How many do I have to do next? Especially when you're changing colors on even numbers. So the rows where you have to bring the yarn towards you to drop it off in the back of the pattern or the tapestry, sometimes the yarn can like take over, or like it's a little hard to like say this, but sometimes the yarn can like cover a stitch that you're actually supposed to go into, especially if you're using a little thicker yarn as well. So sometimes you could even miss a stitch. So doing your pattern written out like that ahead before you even start a tapestry has also worked so well for me. So I definitely recommend you to try it that way, especially if you are a beginner. Alright, so here we are. Basically, what I said in the beginning is a huge tip for me. To reiterate again for you guys, that I would honestly only choose tapestry patterns or graphs that have maybe about 2 or 3 rows from the bottom to where something actually starts, like the pattern actually starts, and especially both the right and left sides, to have at least 2 or 3 crochet stitches between an actual start of a color change is actually really helpful, because not only does it help you have clean borders, but it helps you to have even better like color switches, and the color switching themselves will end up a lot better and less like stressful for you as well. So honestly, I would just recommend you to do that, especially if you're a beginner, because even myself trying to do tapestries that have color changes within the very first row, or actually color changes within like the actual borders too, is very difficult, and you have to put a lot more thought process into that. My last tip for you guys, especially when you're all done and you're finally ready to do a little border to add some extra pizzazz to your crochet tapestries, is doing a border of single crochets or even slip stitches within every single stitch of the front and the bottom. And then even when you get to the corners, you can just do a simple of 3 single crochets within that same stitch in a border of a corner, just to help you do that little rounded out corner. And then what I even like to do is maybe do, like, depending on how many stitches across your top and bottom, you can alternate between doing like a chain of 3 single crocheting back down into the border, and then again maybe doing another set of 3 single crochets just to do that little extra little bobble stitch at the top and bottom. But those are actually just optional and just a little something extra to add to your tapestries, especially if you're trying to hang them up on your wall to make them look all cutesy. Or if you're going to frame them, then you don't necessarily need to do any borders. But with that being said, I definitely hope that you guys found all of my little tips helpful on how you guys can make your own crochet tapestries. And let me know what you guys might want to see next from me. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!